This week in games, let's break down the Larian AI fiasco. Naughty Dog is returning to crunch culture, and Legend of Zelda may take a couple notes from Hyrule Warriors. This is the Two Penny Gamescast. Back to the Two Penny Gamescast, episode 280. I am your host, Tavin Bothel, here with my good friend and co-host. Say hello to the people, Connor Elliott.
All right, I'm nervous, but I'm ready. I'm here.
Oh, okay. Nervous?
I'm just nervous.
Why are you nervous?
Every single time we start this show, I'm just like, Connor, what's going to happen?
You got a little bit of nerves?
What crazy thing, what psycho thing is going to happen on the Two Penny Games podcast?
What? Do we have a history of psycho behavior? Psychopathic behavior?
You do.
Me?
Yeah.
I'm a perfectly rational and well-adjusted human being. How dare you?
To give you a sense of audience, I should say, about what I mean, see that dog behind him?
There's a dog.
He feeds a child to it once every single month. If the kid fights her off and lives, he gets to let the kid leave and not get killed. Otherwise, it becomes the snack. See, I'm talking about kids. I'm in another room, and she's starting to wag her tail. She knows something's up, and she thinks it's that time of the month. It already happened earlier.
Or I'm just turning around and looking at her.
Yeah, because she knows it's child eating time. It's what she did last week. Or, the beginning of the week of this month. Just saying.
Beginning of the week of this month.
The beginning of the week of this month. So the first week of this month.
Okay. All right. Yeah, sure.
Yep.
That was okay. All right. That was a reason to be nervous, Connor. That was whatever just happened right there. Ladies and gentlemen, this is, of course, the Two Penny Gamescast. Each week, me and Connor come to you with nerdy news you need to know concerning the video game industry. We each come to you with two topics, two pennies, if you will, and we give you our 2 cents on them. You can catch this show live every Monday afternoon. Twitch.
Dumb fuck. See, she's getting riled up now. What did I say, audience? Let my words have the intended effect of, bringing up the bloodlust of this dog.
Are you okay?
That was amazing.
Are you okay? You're okay? All right. Ahsoka, you just made the TikTok feed this week. That's what you just did, so thanks for that.
And include this in the TikTok. All those dumb dog losers are going to be, oh, it's so cute. And this is the kind of stuff they just eat up because they're drones, basically.
You fell down. Yeah, that's not going to be part of the TikTok because I just hit the replay button. Anyways. Monday, twitch.tv/2pennygames. And if you can't catch us live, catch us on Tuesday, 8 a.m. Central Time, youtube.com/@2pennygames or mainstream podcast services of your choice. Connor, we've got ourselves a hefty week this week. A lot of video game news happened, which is crazy because we're in the second to last week of the year, and usually this is when the video game news calms down and we gotta start stretching for topics, but not this week, Connor, because
only one story.
because fan favorite Larian Studios stepped in it this week, and things got a little dramatic on the internet this last week, and it's caused us all to have a lot of conversations, and it's also caused a widespread of misinformation throughout the internet. And I've seen a lot of takes this week, Connor, and a lot of them are quite clearly just uninformed or misinformed or intentionally problematic for the sake of clicks. I saw a lot of takes this week that made me go, okay, all right. But those of you out there who have been able to get the story straight, shout out Moist Critical. We talked about him last week, but shout out Moist Critical. I saw his take on all of this. It was even keeled. It was well informed. He had the whole story, and I was like, you know what? All right, hey man, this guy is usually pretty well informed, to be honest, from the clips I've seen of him. But it was a good take, and it was a good perspective to have. I liked that.
I didn't see it, but yeah, he's pretty known to be, even if his takes aren't exactly correct or very basic, it's always level-headed and reasonable. It's never.
Sure.
He seems to always come out when the information is settled. He doesn't try to strike while the iron is hot. He lets things just he makes sure things are as correct before he talks about them. At least from my experience, the little I see of him. What are you looking at? I'm looking for something else.
I just realized my hat was not legible from the perspective that it is, so I had to flip it real quick, right there.
Oh, boo-hoo.
And speaking of my hat, Connor, that brings us to our first topic of the day, my first penny of the day. From VGC News, Chris Scullion, quote, "It's time to face reality. AI is here to stay," end quote. Kingdom Come Deliverance studio head responds to Larian backlash. The co-founder of Kingdom Come Deliverance developer Warhorse Studios has shared his views on generative AI following online backlash to the news that Larian has been using it. And then this is where we get into the real meat of news story and background information of the week. Following Larian's reveal of a new Divinity game at the Game Awards, CEO Sven Vinke confirmed to Bloomberg that the studio was using generative AI to explore early game ideas. Vinke stated that Larian was using AI to, quote, "explore ideas, flush out PowerPoint presentations, develop concept art, and write placeholder text," but said no AI-generated content would make it into the final game, and that, quote, "everyone at the company is more or less okay with the way we're using it." Okay? This wasn't enough to satiate some players on social media who argued that even using generative AI for the concept phase meant replacing human ideas. This led to Venke defending his comments, posting, quote, "holy fuck, guys, we're not pushing hard for or replacing concept artists with AI online," claiming, quote, "we use AI tools to explore references," okay, "just like we use Google and art books," okay, "at the very early ideation stages, we use it as a rough outline for composition, which we replace with original concept art. There is no comparison." Now, Daniel Vavra, the co-founder of Warhorse Studio and director of both Kingdom Come Deliverance games, has defended Larian, claiming on X that every studio is now using generative AI for similar work, and that while the technology has many negative aspects, people should accept that it's not going anywhere and make use of it. Quote, "this AI hysteria is the same as when people were smashing steam engines in the 19th century. No, it's not," Vavra wrote. Quote, "Larian said they were doing something that absolutely everyone else is doing and got an insanely crazy shitstorm." That part I do agree with. Quote, "I've seen someone accuse of us of using AI in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. I don't know anything about it except that I used Topaz Labs to upscale some of the AI elements from Kingdom Come Deliverance 1 and some of the old low-res textures." Quote, "I'm no fan of AI-generated art, but anyway, it's time to face reality. AI is here to stay with us. As frightening as it may be, that's the way it is. Personally, it scares me the most in the music because you can't even recognize AI there anymore." Vavra wrote that while he doesn't like the idea of using AI for creative purposes, he can still see its benefit in the creation of assets that are time-consuming to create, but could be considered less important. Quote, "you know what I hate most about making games," he explained, quote, "the fact that it takes 7 years and 300 people and tens of millions of dollars to make, and the fact that Tom had to spend 500 hours in the studio recording completely generic heckling and generic bars." Quote, "if AI can help," I don't understand that line. Wait. "And the fact that Tom had to spend 500 hours in the studio recording completely generic heckling and generic bars?"
I'm assuming what he's talking about is in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, there's a lot of noise going on around you while you're walking through the cities.
Right.
That's what they're talking
hence
about.
the generic heckling, but what is the generic bars?
Maybe just generic lines that characters use when they do things. Like, for example, if you open up a chest, it's like, "there we go, bingo," something like that,
Quote, "if AI can help make an epic game in a year with a smaller team like in the old days, I'm all for it. That game will still have an art director, writers, programmers, graphic designers, but they won't have to do the tiresome and boring tasks. They'll have to focus on the essentials." Quote, "I have ideas for lots of games, but I'm 50 years old, and so far it's taken me 7 years on average to make one game. If AI helps me realize those ideas faster, I'm all for it." Addressing the issue of AI being used to replace voice actors, something that has been the source of recent debate due to its use in Arc Raiders, Vavra again argued that it could be useful for less meaningful dialogue, while the most important dialogue should still be handled with real voice acting and motion captured cutscenes. Quote, "wouldn't it be nice if you could ask anyone anything in an RPG?" Oh, jeez, I hate this argument. Maybe ask someone for road directions or what they think of their neighbors. We already have tools, 11 Labs can do it, where you can script an NPC, their character, their knowledge and opinions, and then they talk to you about anything. Quote, for non-story stuff, this is an absolutely revolutionary development from a player's point of view, and you can't record it with an actor because it has infinite variations. But what you can record are cutscenes and story dialogue. You don't need an Oscar-level performance when ordering a sausage in a pub or when asking how to get to the castle. Favre concluded that the growth of generative AI use in the industry is inevitable and that people need to get on board with it. Quote, programmers have a problem. The work of most of them will probably not be needed very soon, he wrote. Quote, we will have software architects and AI will do the programming very soon. Resisting this is probably as meaningful as resisting the use of sewing machines in the textile industry, or going back to riding on horses while we can use planes and cars. How many horse breeders lost their jobs thanks to Henry Ford? Okay. Who and how will recognize if the game was programmed by a human or AI, and who would want to spend months of work and hundreds of thousands of dollars when the same thing could be achieved in minutes for free? The whole AI revolution may mean the demise of humanity. Nobody knows now, but it may also mean that anyone at a fraction of the current cost will be able to implement virtually any grand idea. Making a game will be as easy as writing a book. Okay.
So this guy, I'm going to break the story here. This guy is very stupid. He is not an intelligent person for a lot of reasons. First of all, he brings up historical context of technology coming about to what it certainly did do, which is replace certain jobs. The problem is that it's still like the creation of machines still creates a ton of jobs in and of itself. It didn't completely just automate the process. We're not talking about robots that are able to do anything and everything. They were specific machines that had to be operated, that had to be repaired, and that part is just completely missed. And instead, he's diving into the fact that this is a new technology and saying, well, because it's a new technology, it's inevitable. That's just not even a defeatist mentality, because it kind of gives away the game where he says he soothes people's fears by saying, well, you know, the creative jobs aren't going to go away. But then he quickly goes on to say, well, programmers are going to be out of a job, but deal with it. So
didn't Pro just say you can't even tell the difference in music anymore?
Yeah, well, in certain songs I can understand him saying where there are certain music that's created with AI that's hard to tell the difference between
my point being, it doesn't make sense for him to be like, oh, but the creative will always be there. But the AI is creating, even though AI can't create anything, the generative AI is creating music that you can't tell was made by human hands or not anymore. And it completely defeats the point of art, of creation, of expression. Like, that's the whole reason we're in this from the jump. Now, video games are a technology-based art form that we discussed this at length multiple times, right? So we're dealing with artistic expression meeting technical limitations. If AI can help us navigate those technical limitations, that's one thing. But that's not what we're using it for. And the use of generative AI in this medium is a slippery fucking slope. And this medium is so capitalist forward, they only care about the dollar in this medium, to where I don't believe that these publishers or these parent companies or these CEOs who know nothing about creation are going to be able to control themselves and say, no, fuck the 300 people we have employed, cut it down to 20 and do the rest with AI. Like, they clearly do not. We've seen it over the last couple of years with the amount of massive layoffs that we've seen for cutting costs and for all the purpose of tightening in our year-end bonuses and shit like that. We don't have the self-control for this. Human beings don't have the self-control to allow this to become part of our day-to-day. It will kill art. It is happening. Disney just funded OpenAI with $1 billion investment and is allowing them to use their characters for Sora 2 and beyond. Art is dying in front of our eyes, and this whole defeatist attitude of, well, it's a new technology, you know, you just got to accept it. Oh, it's just like the steam engine. It's just like the sewing machine from Tactile Industries. No, it's not. We are talking about creativity. We are talking about art and expression. AI will kill it, murder it, dead. It will not exist in a human-made form ever again if we allow AI to do what it does. This is not just about the jobs, which is very important, and I very much am arguing on that side as well. It's about the actual creation of the thing. Generative AI cannot create. It can only imitate and steal. That's the only thing it does, is it imitates and steals. And allowing it access on any level is a slippery fucking slope. Now, do I think it's the end-all be-all if Larian Studios uses it in their very early concepting phase to put together vision boards and fill out PowerPoints? No, I don't think it's that big of a deal. Like, it's upsetting, but it's not that big of a deal. The problem is that it's a slippery slope, and I don't believe that Larian will stop there. And I also don't believe that these other companies who are also doing it will stop there. Even if this little holdup will make them go, oh, well, we'll just replace it with man-made things later. Hey, generative AI plagiarizes. So you creating something off of plagiarized work is still plagiarism. Like, you are still stealing.
To your point, we covered a little while ago about how there was some internal strife over at Ubisoft because that company, the business heads of it, were really pushing AI, and the developers were not happy about it. One of them was programming, where, and as this guy is trying to justify as a part of game creation that can be replaced, the issue is that the AI, it will mess up. Even if, like, in the future, it will have problems, and that creates more issues on the back end than if the programmers had just created the stuff on their own. Not to mention the fact that it is trained on their work. So it's fully with the understanding that you're going to work with AI, and it's going to eventually replace you, and you're just helping it along to that point. And to get back even to the historical context that he tried to bring up, which I've seen a number of times. Obviously, that's frankly the number one defense I've ever seen of AI is that technologies have advanced, nothing stopped them, and so it's the same thing. But I'm also not too knowledgeable about a lot of other technologies that have not come to fruition, even after they were created, though I know there are examples that I can't remember off the top of my head. But for a better example, the effects of AI are far more broad than the creation of steam engines, for example, which help with locomotion. They help with getting you more safely from place to place to place. They improve people's lives far, far more than they negatively impact them. Meanwhile, AI has done a number of things. Of course, we're talking about the death of creatives, the death of people's jobs in this industry with AI's expansion. But even beyond that, you have the prices of RAM that are increasing because all of these RAM manufacturers are now dedicating a lot of their supply to AI centers that cost large amounts of water, far more large than any steam engine ever created had to take to actually function. There was recently, I think it was an OpenAI data center that's being created that requires more power than the entire city of Philadelphia, Philadelphia, which is absolutely ridiculous. The amount of power and energy and resources it takes just to run these things, when you compare that to what you're arguing for, the small little ways it barely improves your life, it's not worth it. There are very hyper-specific things AI has done that we should keep, in development. Like, for example, the medical field. AI can be used to find certain diseases a lot sooner than you otherwise would be able to, through traditional medicine. Now, while this, of course, still carries on the problems of, the data centers that these AI systems use require water, they require RAM. When you're far more selective about what these centers are being used for, like the ones I just mentioned, like, for example, I believe there's certain medical equipment that's being created that are using AI as its backbone. These things we can try and let slip through the cracks. I mean, a lot of this comes on back to the government side of things that has to regulate AI. That's really what it's all about. And in our current administration, of course, this is very U.S. focused, and it's not just a problem in the U.S. One of the big RAM producers that's now dedicating its supply to AI centers is Micron. A South Korean company. It's one of the only 3 manufacturers in the world of it. They're doing it, but over here in the United States, our president recently made it to where it's harder to push AI regulation on a more local government basis. And so it's setting up to make this harder to deal with in the future, and it's trying to coat it with honey to make it seem more enticing, like improving your lives either through just small, insignificant means or shoring up development time for video games. But that's far less important than the negatives that come with AI. And again, to go back to what you were saying, the fact is that this is just the very beginning of AI expansion, and it's just replacing some jobs, but it's going to increase more and more. And because the people who decide the path of these things aren't the creatives like Vavra here, it's the people who are his bosses. It's people who are at the heads of these publishing companies like Tencent, for example, or Embracer Group. They're not going to have the same level of nuance that this developer will have when implementing AI. They're going to want to take it as far as they can. And so these people, they seem to have just basically convinced themselves that AI is useful and are trying to argue for it, even though they're not the ones who are going to be overall benefiting from AI, even if you might see it now, especially with how the games industry is, with how long it takes to get out video games. It really does seem a really good idea to make it to where that shores up, that gets shored up, and that's going to save jobs in the long run because so many people get laid off because games take so long to develop. But the fact that AI is the first thing you go to is just because it's the most recent technology, and so that's what you're focused on, as the future. Even though how long a game has been made that didn't take 7 years to make? It's a lot of it's graphic fidelity, a lot of it's the stupid small shit like what he's arguing here for. Like, I get it. It's really nice to have a question like directions to a castle, as he described, and have it be AI generated, and it's basically fresh every single time they say something. But do you really need that? Is that something that you look at and say, well, this is what I want from a video game? And to ask questions to something I could pull up a map to find out, which is what you should be doing in the first place anyway. And, random talkings going on around you when you're going through the marketplace. Again, cool if it's AI generated and they're saying unique things, but does that really improve the game in the way you want it to be improved? I would say no.
That's another thing that I really struggle with the optimistic promise of generative AI in this medium that I really, really don't understand. I understand why people would be excited about these things, but to be quite frank, like, there is such a thing as giving the player too much choice. There is such a thing as giving the player too much agency in their path. We have direction for a reason. I'm talking from a creative perspective. It doesn't make sense to me that I can ask any NPC on the street any question that they may or may not know the answer to, and because of AI, they'll give an answer to whatever question I have to ask. That doesn't make sense to me when, for decades, we have built the system of being able to identify individual NPCs that are valuable and will have information for you that you need to know. Or we've built systems like maps that you can pull up and get directions from in that way. Or you can find really, really creative solutions or in-game solutions like waypointing, or what the Ghost games do with having the winds guide you in a natural way to create a more immersive environment. Pushing the player to the next thing and directing them, funneling them through the experience. I understand the like attraction to be like, oh, we're going to make a game that's like a real life sim and you can have a whole life in it where you can be the hero, this, that, and third, and you can talk to anybody. I can understand the appeal of that, but then at that point, you're not living life, like real life. And at the end of the day, these things are not real life. They're entertainment. And it's art, and it's escapism, and all of those big fancy words that we're doing. And it's a way to get the player, to get the audience to feel emotions or to be affected in some way. Giving them that much freedom and that much like accessibility doesn't make sense to me, because it's just like, okay, well now I'm just talking to Joe Schmo, and Joe Schmo on paper is a meaningless character, but because I'm talking to him so much, now it's an actor. Now it's someone who you have robbed an opportunity from, because that's the point of all of this is to direct the player through the experience, not to let the player direct the art. That like flies in the face of everything that art and expression is. It doesn't make any fucking sense to me. I also want to add on you brought up the water thing. I've seen a lot of pushback against the water usage argument, and it's that, hey, it's actually not using like that much water when you break down the numbers, but it does seem to me that it's kind of like a straw breaking the camel's back type of thing with water usage and water supplies, and we just keep adding on more and more things that use fresh water, and so that's problematic. But I have seen a lot of pollution focused things, like it's killing our air quality because it's pumping out so much energy that like it's like pushing a bunch of pollution into the air. Specifically, I've seen a lot of takes of like Elon Musk's Grok AI is like planted right next to like a rural town, and that town, like the people in that town can't go outside because the air smells so bad, and like you can taste it.
It's that, and it's also in like, I think it's more private water supplies, but I mean, again, that's just for now. It's
that town is also
local wells.
That town is also like 90% black. So
yeah, I mean, it really does hurt, especially smaller communities, because it's poisoned water supplies as well. There's one lady, and I think she was in Minnesota. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, but she can't drink her water in her house because the AI center that popped up next to her house has infiltrated into the private well. Somehow it corrupted that water source, and the water's no longer good. And I have heard what you said as well. CO2 emissions have been caused heavily by these AI data centers. But even I remember seeing one study that it was using like AI just this year has used more water than like the agricultural industry or something like that. Some other
I saw it's used the same amount of water as the water bottle industry.
Okay.
Is what I saw. But when you break down the numbers, it's like that doesn't seem like that much. But like if you just keep adding on to things, like, and it's things that you don't need, it just doesn't make any sense to me. I do want to shout out. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I'll just say the quick thing that is going back to the just energy, electricity. It's made costs rise up for people in areas with data centers because it requires so much, and that's put off onto the taxpayer. It's not put off onto the AI company. So those ones are still reaping a massive profit from this industry that doesn't even seem to be doesn't seem to have a bubble forming right now. What is AI really bringing to the table at its current state? Not as much to justify how much it's expanded. Yeah. But of course, we're not run by people who think about the best interests of the people, but rather their own wallets.
I'm seeing a large amount of push that the AI bubble is close to bursting already, just because of the amount of investment everybody's getting in and the lack of profit that they're getting out of it. And so I hope it does. It will lead to another recession. And on top of, where inflation's at and where the economic status of this nation is already, it like may lead to like an actual depression, which would be unfortunate. We would all suffer through that, but it would be better than having the alternative, in my opinion, because like you are looking at the death of art, and you are looking at us slowly, greatly attributing to the uninhabitability of the planet Earth. Like we will choke to death and die before Skynet happens. And I just think it's like I just don't see the positive. There's not a positive here.
There's not really in comparison to
There's the promise. There's the promise of like the potential of things like that. And this is my thing, is it's just that AI should not be a public use. I should not be able to have access to AI as a normal person. Like this should be something that is heavily legislated, and you have to like get a special license to use it or something. Like, and you have to go through specific training, and it needs to be limited to specific fields. Like like we just need to start limiting ourselves. And the problem with human beings is that we don't do well with that. We've never done well with that. We just constantly keep wanting more and keep adding on more because we're selfish beings, I want to add on, Larian has faced a lot of backlash from Sven's earlier comment of like, guys, holy fuck, calm down, which I don't think that was like the smartest statement to put out there. They have since put out another statement that says, quote, "It's been a week since we announced Divinity, our next RPG, and a lot has become lost in translation. Larian's DNA is agency. Everything we work towards is to the benefit of our teams, games, and players, a better work day, and a better game. Our success comes from empowering people to work in their own way and bring the best out of their skill and craft, so that we may make the best RPGs we can possibly make. In that context, it would be irresponsible for us not to evaluate new technologies. However, our processes are always evolving. And where they are not efficient or fail to align with who we are, we will make changes. To give you more insight, we'll do an AMA featuring our different departments after the holiday break, in which you'll get the opportunity to ask us any questions you have about Divinity and our dev process directly. We'll announce the date in the new year. In the meantime, I wish you all happy holidays." That's a better PR response to what's going on. And I can appreciate that. Diving back into the Larian situation, if we're using it for early concept stages, one, you can use your concept artists, which you have hired. That's been like the counter to all this outrage is they're hiring artists. They've been hiring artists. They just brought on, I think it was like another 50 artists or something like that, like recently. And I'm like, cool, that's great. Why can't any of them do your concept art for you? It's early concept work. It's not meant to be the most incredible asset that you've ever seen, or it's supposed to be a quick sketch of, hey, this is what we're going for. And I also have problems with it in terms of vision boards and PowerPoints and stuff like that. As someone who has been a part of multiple creative ventures, as someone who has created himself from nothing and put together vision boards and concept boards and things like that, these are not things that take a lot of time or a lot of energy. Like, it's really like maybe 15 minutes and of looking around on Google and pulling images together on Google. Like, it really just doesn't take that much effort to put these things together and put them together. So why are we using AI when it's really not that big of a task to do it anyway? If your argument is, well, instead of taking 15 minutes, it takes 2 minutes, I then ask you, okay, but it's just stealing from a bunch of other ideas, and you are not defining your own identity. You're just pulling off of something else. And you could counter with, well, that's what using images pulling off of Google is. And I would again counter with that of, yes, but there's no chance of me pulling shit off of Google. Well, there is always a chance because human beings suck. But there's a lesser chance of me pulling something off of Google makes it into the final product. And we have a great example of that with the controversy that's happening behind Clair Obscur Expedition 33, a game that we on this channel have lauded and praised all year, and came under fire this week because it was brought back up or reminded that there were AI assets in that game at launch. Those assets have been replaced with Sandfall Interactive created assets, but they made it in because Sandfall Interactive used Unreal Engine 5. They used an asset pack that, to my understanding, they did not know had generative AI created assets in it. And when they used that asset pack, some of it just slipped through the cracks, and it ended up in the final game. They forgot to replace the placeholder assets, and it made it into the final game. And when they realized that, they fixed it. You know, that's a perfect example of the slippery slope that this generative AI shit is. And it's not that now Clair Obscur is a AI slop game. It's not. It is people who experimented with the technology and failed to do their due diligence and replace the work that was meant to be as placeholders. So why are you fucking using it in the first place if it can slip through the cracks? That's my point. Just stop doing it. Stop using it. You know what's okay for placeholder is just like a little like crayon drawn sketch and put it there. Like, that's okay as placeholder because it's placeholder and it's obvious placeholder. And it's one clean sweep will go, oh, hey, look, that looks like shit. Why? Oh, it's a crayon drawing. Like, my 12-year-old could make that, you know? Let's fix that with something real. Like, it's not going to slip through the cracks because it's so painfully obvious that you can see it. You know what I mean? Like if you look at early edits of Star Wars, 1977 Star Wars, the space fighting sequences where they were using old World War II footage of dogfights, of playing dogfights. That was their placeholder footage. That's the point of placeholder assets and placeholder created stuff, is so that it is so obviously not meant to be there that it will be detected. And guys, sometimes even that doesn't work. I've been around long enough to remember on Uncharted 4, 2016, before all this AI crap happened, they had used a placeholder image in one of like the portraits in the background, much like how my Spider-Mans are in the background. There was like a portrait, I think it was like of a ship or a boat or something. And it was just some picture that they pulled off of Google and put it in the game as a placeholder image that they would fix later. It launched with that picture in the game. That was before AI. That was before the generative AI slop. These things happen. It is a part of creation, right? Is sometimes things slip through, but that should make it all the more clear to everybody that using generative AI is even more dangerous because it's even harder to detect by the human eye. So why are we allowing it in here? I don't understand. There is no benefit. There is zero benefit to this technology. It is polluting the planet. It is stealing art. It is costing jobs. And in a lot of cases, a lot of people are having to go back in and fix all of the mistakes that AI is making in the first place, causing the whole process to actually take longer. The promise of generative AI is not being fulfilled, and it is killing us, humans. It is killing us. We need to stop. It needs to be legislated because there are some benefits. I'm not going to say we need to get rid of it, but it just shouldn't be easily accessible. It should not be something that I can do on my phone. That shouldn't be a thing. It should be a thing that, like, hey, I have to get a license. I have to be government insured. I have to be like trained in how to use it and so forth. And it needs to be very specific in what it does and why it does it. And I think it also needs to come with a hefty price tag. And I just don't understand all of you fucking bootlickers who just go, oh, AI is great because of all of the things that you could potentially do for it. I think it's funny the amount it's being used, but I love the quote from the Dispatch devs of AI may seem like a creative solution for uncreative people. I love that quote. That's a great quote. It's hilarious. It's already overused, and I think it dismisses a lot of context that can come with AI, but I think that is preferable. That is a more preferable mindset than allowing this shit to enter.
With AI, a lot of the people who support it are in one of two crowds. Either they're people who use it for insignificant, small little funny videos, answering questions that they have about whatever stupid thought comes to their head, and that's the main way they use AI. The other way people really just talk about AI is what it can do. It's words in the air. It's like, oh, this will be really good when it gets cemented as a mainstay technology that's able to do all of these wondrous things that these AI companies are promising. What we actually see on the ground is that just doesn't really seem to be the case. Again, going back to the ecological damages and how much this is going to increase power, how much you pay for your electricity for just making computers. Computers are going to become far more expensive. I was talking about the RAM that's also going to apply to the GPUs, the graphics cards. It's so much more than just how you're experiencing it right now and what people are saying it's going to be like in 5 years' time. You have to be a little bit more creative with how you're thinking of how AI is used. And just to give a little bit more of a understanding of how where things are right now, this is from an article that I wrote for the podcast back in July. 7% of Steam games, I'm not going to read the whole thing. 7% of Steam games use generative AI, up 6% from last year. This is from Totally Human Media's Ichiro Lambe, who uncovered the roughly 1,000 games using Gen AI last year, has now bloomed into 7,818 titles disclosing the use of AI in the games. Using data from their game discovery platform, We Love Every Game, Lambe declares 20% of all games released in 2025 have also disclosed having used generative AI, although the real number is higher in both cases, as not all developers would transparently admit the use of AI. Specifically, 60% of disclosures related to visual asset creation, comprising the bulk of AI use, followed by audio generation from music to character voices, and then writing of code and in-game text that makes much of use of AI. Big important thing is that on the smaller side of things, the ones that are more easily able to slip through the cracks, the smaller devs are using AI because, of course, they don't have the same resources at their disposal as a lot of the companies like Larian Studios or Sandfall. But in that same case, you see...
Or talent, not in like the sense of like as like a pejorative, like you've not developed that skill.
Yeah, exactly. And they're using it for the visual asset creation side of things. And so you have to think of it beyond just the things that hit your feed at, all the articles you see of when they're talking about, again, of Larian, Sandfall, Warhorse. It's going to be a lot more expansive than you might think on a first-time glance. And these people aren't going to have the issue of taking them out to replace placeholder art with actual art they created. They're just going to use the AI assets that they've already had developed for their game because it's easier to do so, because when you're trying to make a video game in this space, with as bad as it is for the big developers, you as a small-time developer are going to feel more enticed to use it. And again, as you said before at the beginning, it's a slippery slope. This is not something that is going to give you all of the rosy promises that have been said. It's going to have a lot more of a detrimental effect on your life for not really a great amount of benefit.
I want to jump back to Venke from Larian saying everyone at the company is more or less okay with the way we're using it. I mean, that may or may not be true, but like, how can you gauge that appropriately? Like, how many people are being so outwardly negative about it to their boss, like that could
Yeah.
it puts you in a sticky situation of like, well, if I say anything, they may like push me out or keep me out of business or creative decisions. I may be fired if I speak out in these things. I don't know how severe the situation is. I think just saying that blanket statement is like kind of foolish or,
naive.
it's not true. Like, it just doesn't feel true. You know what I'm saying? I also think it was really funny that it was an interview about Divinity with Bloomberg's Jason Schreier, who I believe we're about to read more from here in the next topic.
Yeah.
Is this a Schreier article that we're linked?
It is.
Yes, it is. Okay, great. Anyways, and it was an interview about Divinity, and they just brought up the AI of their own accord, and Schreier, being a good journalist, went, "Wait, what do you mean?" And then they gave a vague answer, and he went, "No, seriously, what do you mean?" And they gave another vague answer, and it got to the point to where like, or the outrage behind this story got to the point of like Schreier just straight up posted the what is it called?
Interaction.
The transcript. He posted the transcript of the interview and was just like, this is everything that was said and how it was said. And I'm like, it's just insane that we have to go to this detail in this level. Now, do I think some of the outrage has been a little bit blown out of proportions? Yes, but I would rather that than the other way. You know what I'm saying? So like at least people are mad about it as opposed to like it's just us screaming from the rafters about how this is evil and we're all going to die. And also, I got a problem with this whole perception. Connor, you briefly mentioned it of, I hate how long it takes to make a game and how many people are required to make a game. If only there were decades of games that happened where things came out on shorter timelines and were just as good, if not better, in some cases,
I mean, we talked about it fairly recently. It was a game, but we looked at, I guess it was technically a game. We looked at decades of gaming and we tried to rank them. And we pretty much definitively kind of decided that the period of the mid 2000s, that range, the early 2000s, was the best, just in terms of how much quality was there. Of course, there were a lot of stinkers, as there are always going to be, now.
There's always stinkers and there's always great games.
And again, this is kind of cheating in a bit because it was such a important development of video games to the point where they are now, where they're one of the highest grossing forms of entertainment in the world. But it was because of this era that occurred.
They are the highest grossing.
Point. Yes, they are the highest grossing entertainment in the world. And a lot of that really got decided upon in the era where they didn't have all of these different technologies to take advantage of to shore up development times. You had World of Warcraft to release. You had the Elder Scrolls games really get their start with Oblivion. And I know I'm kind of cheating here, but Skyrim comes shortly after, in 2011, after the 2010s,
I mean,
2000s. And
I mean, we got 3 Uncharted games in the same console generation. We got 3 Mass Effects in the same console generation. We got 3 Gears of War. We got 4 Gears of Wars in the same console generation. We got 4 Halos. That's not true. We got
Halos were in different generations.
We got like 3.5 Halos in the same generation with some
of the best Halos.
3 ODST, Reach, and Halo 4. We got all of those in the same console generation. Like, and I'm sorry, a lot of those games that I just named, you can go back and look at, and you'll be hard pressed to say that they look dated or that they look too old. Like, you can tell that they're not from the current generation, sure, but like, go look at Halo 4. You're gonna go look at Halo 4 and tell me that game doesn't look good? You're gonna go look at Halo Reach and tell me that game doesn't look good? What are we doing?
Yeah,
I mean, even the next generation 4, where we didn't get as many titles, but we still got them at a decent pace. You can tell me Uncharted 4 doesn't look like one of the greatest games ever? You're gonna tell me The Last of Us Part 2 doesn't look like one of the... Naughty Dog gave us 3 games last generation. They have not... We are almost at the end of this generation, and they've not given us 1. Like, the expectations are too high, and it's not on our side. Well, it is on our side because player expectations are too high. But, like...
Yeah, that is.
But, like, we just need to reset the bar backwards. Like, we've just gone too far in one direction, and it just needs to be reset because there's just no need for this level of graphical fidelity in every video game ever. I appreciate how beautiful Death Stranding 2 looks, but we also don't need every game to look like Death Stranding 2. I appreciate how gorgeous The Last of Us Part 2 is in terms of its high graphical fidelity, but we don't need that every single time. Like,
That's what we're getting for the most part now. People want that.
I don't understand it. Like, why can't all games look like the Mass Effect trilogy. Like, it's a unified art style, it's a unified art direction, and they still look good. Sure, the animations are a little stiff in some areas. Sure, the lip syncing is off. Who cares? You're immersing yourself in the world, and it looks fine. It looks good. I'm actually impressed at the pace that Square Enix has been doing with the Final Fantasy VII Remake series, because in 7-ish years, we hope, if that game launches in 2027, I was wrong when I spoke on the Piggy Bank. The 30th anniversary is 20. Did I say that in Piggy Bank, or was that before the Piggy Bank? Anyways,
I don't think it is.
I misspoke. I said it was next year. It's 2027. Whenever I said that.
I don't think you said it on content, but yeah, you might have said it.
Yeah. In 7-ish years, they have been able to put out 3 games. You know, now that's cheating because I'm not including the long dev time of Remake. I'm just counting from the release of Remake onwards. But like, you get my point here. Like, these things are not like. We're making it more difficult than it needs to be. And now we're using this dangerous, pollution-heavy, plagiarizing technology as our scapegoat of getting out of here. And that's not the direction that we should go.
Good luck telling some people that. Again, it's just easy to accept this new technology because a lot of people just say it's new technology. It's the way it is. Shut up. These people are inherently the sheep that the people who are usually in charge, funny enough, of these AI companies want you to do, because their technology that they're making is going to bring in more profit for the people at heads of companies, for the executives, the ones who already make tons of money. It's going to negatively impact the workforce, and they rely on the average population saying, well, this is okay. AI is good. AI helps me in this way or that way. And maybe there are, again, really good reasons why AI should be implemented. I brought up medical technology. There's other things I guarantee you that I'm not even aware of that AI is useful for. But that's not the way it's being implemented. That's where the honeyed words come into play. They say those things to make it seem like it's going to be this wonderful, amazing thing for everybody, when it's only going to be really as good for a small amount of people. I mean, I think of Sam Altman, Alex Karp. His name's Alex Karp. I can't remember the guy with the stupid
CEOs
hair.
of these AI companies, is what you're saying?
Yeah. Alex Karp. Yeah. I mean,
if your idea of creating something is going to an AI generator and not opening up a program, you're just an inferior human being. Like, you're uncreative, you're probably unintelligent, and you're just inferior in every way to someone who's actually putting in the effort and putting in the work to learn, get better, create something of their own. And like, isn't that the whole fucking point of creation? Is it's not meant to be easy. It's I'm supposed to be hammering away at this thing until I can get it as good as I can possibly get it. Isn't that the whole fucking point of it?
I think there's that side of things when you want to create, and the other one who want the status that comes with it, the notoriety or the fame. They want the money that's associated with it. They want to be in the culture. They want to attribute to culture, and because they can't do it in their own way, they're not capable of it, they take shortcuts. Yes, it's the enticing parts of art that people want to achieve without actually working for it. I mean, this is a weird tangent to go on, not even a tangent, but an example to bring up, which is languages. People like the Duolingos. They like the ones where you can drive in traffic and them throw terms at you and throw sentences at you, and which could be useful in certain contexts to, get a little bit more understanding of a country before you go there. But a lot of people use it with kind of the understanding they're trying to learn a language, and it's just kind of diverting you from the actual effort it takes from learning a language to give you an easy solution. And in essence, that's kind of what AI is like. It's just there it's enticing because it is enticing. When you hear the things that it can be used for, when you want to make some stupid, dumb-looking meme that's going to make you laugh, like obviously the one you've probably seen is the fat lady who breaks that bridge, and it was going on Twitter all over the place, and people were laughing at it because it looked so stupid. But even something as innocuous as that gets you to use AI, gets you to interact with AI because it's a small little bit of pleasure in the moment, and that's how a lot of people think rather than the long-term effects of something.
And people also find, like, in the social media age, like, getting the comments of, oh, wow, that's crazy, or whoa, that's cool, or whatever, and then, like, a bunch of likes and so forth. They think that's, like, the people agreeing with them or the people thinking like that. No, that is other, like, let me be nicer to this general populace. Like, these are general people who like are not going about their day looking for creation. They just want like escapism or something to laugh at. And that's a fine thing. Like that's a fine mindset to have, is just to want something to laugh at, like that's fine. Not everybody is an artist or achieves to be an artist or is focused on, the creation or the objectivity, like skill in making art. They just want to be entertained. Right. And that's
even
fine
those people
because
can
you're dealing with your own day. But it's just the problem of like, okay, but you're affecting people who actually do this, you're affecting people of the craft, people of the cloth. And it's like, that is where like we need to draw the line and be like, yo, absolutely not.
And that's not even to say that the more artistic people don't even just want to laugh and relax for a while and laugh at brain rot stuff. That's just funny in the moment. But it's just, again, you got to be a bit smarter with it and not view things wholly from that perspective when you're thinking about something like AI. It's a toy in essence, but it's also not a toy. It can be used as both.
It just shouldn't be a toy. Like
it should no.
Like
that's true.
We really need to it needs to get off the streets. Like we need to take it off the streets for I've got like a hard line on that of like Tavin Bothel should not have access to generative AI. Like I just shouldn't. Like it needs to be like safeguarded and licensed. Like it should be treated like how other countries treat gun control. You know what I mean? Like, and anyways, we got to move on to our next topic of the day. We're 50 minutes in after talking about a bunch of
the big news
stories. That was the big news. That's the one everybody's talking about. But here's another one that also had created quite a few waves and got people just as upset and frustrated and angry. But this is sort of in the more traditional old world, anger and frustration. From Bloomberg, Jason Schreier, Naughty Dog Studio orders employee overtime for Intergalactic. Employees at Sony Group Corp's Naughty Dog Studio are working mandatory overtime to finish a demo for their next video game, Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet, receiving an infamous workplace tradition that is increasingly frowned upon across the industry. For the past 7 weeks, the Santa Monica-based studio behind The Last of Us has been pushing its staff to work long hours to get ready for an upcoming review of the demo by its parent company, according to people familiar with the situation. Excuse me. Starting in late October, staff were asked to begin working a minimum of 8 extra hours a week and logging their overtime in an internal spreadsheet, said the people who asked not to be identified because they weren't authorized to speak publicly. This overtime period was an attempt to get the production back on track after several missed deadlines. The employees were instructed not to work more than 60 hours a week. Staff were also told to return to the office 5 days a week for this period, up from 3 previously, sending some employees scrambling to find alternative care arrangements for children and pets. Representatives for Sony and Naughty Dog declined to comment. Excessive overtime, also called crunch, has long been commonplace in the video game. Do we need this part?
It's just, I don't think so.
Naughty Dog, one of the most respected game makers, thanks to hit franchises like Uncharted and The Last of Us, has earned a reputation over the years for its binge working culture. In 2021, after facing burnout and some attrition among its workers following the release of The Last of Us Part 2, Naughty Dog began building a new team of producers charged in part with alleviating the overload of work on upcoming projects. But many of those producers have since left the company, according to the people familiar with the situation. Some teams at Naughty Dog worked long hours to finish the game's debut trailer, which was released last December. But this is the first time in recent years that overtime has been mandated across the bulk of the studio. The game is slated for release in mid-2027, according to the people familiar with the schedule, leaving some employees wondering if the overtime requirements will get worse later in the development cycle. For most staff, the recent period of mandated overtime ended this week as Naughty Dog finalized the demo. Management told employees that the company will return to its standard requirement of 3 days in the office each week through the end of January, according to people familiar with the communications. The company said it plans to provide a more detailed schedule for 2026 after the holiday break. And God, I hope y'all figure that shit out, because I can't believe we're still doing this. I can't, after all of the backlash that Naughty Dog received, that Neil Druckmann received after The Last of Us Part 2, after they publicly addressed it and hired people and formed, as we just said, formed producers that are hired specifically to combat this. And then there was a video documentary of Neil Druckmann or something, or a video interview maybe of Neil Druckmann specifically addressing this, saying, hey, our plan for our next project is to eliminate crunch. And here we are, 2025, crunching for a demo because we've fallen behind on things. Now, I can sympathize. Timelines get missed, get off track. Benchmarks, aren't hit It happens, right? But it is on management to figure out how to navigate that without overworking and killing the spirit of your development team. It is not on your development team to then put in the extra hours and work to get it done.
And leeway shouldn't be given to Naughty Dog. This is a consistent problem they face, to the point where if you're still dealing with it, I understand that you're making Naughty Dog games, which are high fidelity. They got lots of voice acting, realistic looking characters. And we were just talking a lot about AI and how people have...
shit, yeah.
Exactly. We've been talking how, in our long topic we just covered, of how AI is being used to try and overcome crunch. Of course, you can go watch our videos for how we expound upon that. But the point is that one of your solutions is maybe just tone it back a little bit. Because Naughty Dog is doing shit that I've seen a lot of people online praise for, things like The Last of Us Part 2 and The Last of Us Part 1 remake, of like, look how you can cut this watermelon or shoot this watermelon and it destroys itself. Like if you actually shot a bullet into a watermelon. Don't do that.
We had that in 2001. Like it didn't look good. Like, it didn't look good, but like we had it.
But it's all, but then now they made it look good, and it's all of these small little things as well. You can go on and on and on. The rain, when it falls into the puddle, it creates like an actual water effect, like the puddle, and you can see individual beads of sweat and hairs.
There's a different sound. There's a different sound effect for every drop of water, depending on how deep the puddle is, and so forth. Yeah, stuff like that.
And GTA 6 is seeming to be doing this exact same thing. You don't need to do it. You're Naughty Dog, you're Rockstar, you're whoever the fuck. You're going to make people want to play your game because you're you. You don't need to add all of these elements that cause this kind of crunch. And then when you, as you said, Tavin, when you say that we're not going to crunch anymore, and then you do it, we already know you don't deal with this properly. And so when you make pledges to try and fix it, and then you basically change nothing about how you make games, and it leads to the exact same problems, spare me whenever you say, next time there's an employee that's laid off or a couple employees are laid off, we feel so bad, but we had to cut costs. Take some money out of your own salary. Dial back what Naughty Dog games are like in this new era of gaming that takes so long. You, again, in the last topic, talked about how Uncharted came out on the same console.
Last of Us. We got 4 Naughty Dog games.
4 Naughty Dog games.
4 Naughty Dog games in the PS3 generation. And when they made the Last of Us 1 remake for PlayStation 5, there were side-by-side screenshots of both games, and people were like, I can't tell which one's the new one. Like, which one's the new one? I can't see the difference. I think that's a little extreme. You could definitely see the difference. But to the point of, you made those games. Last of Us 1 on PS3 still looks fantastic. Yes, the remaster on PS4 also looks better. Yes, the remake on PS5 also looks better. But if Last of Us 1 came out today, I do not believe that people would criticize how that game looks. Like, I don't think it would get praised for how it looks, like how it used to, but it would be like, oh yeah, game looks good. But it wouldn't be like whoa, this game looks next level phenomenal. And the question is, well, do we need it to look next level phenomenal? And I don't think we do.
Think of Clair Obscur, because one of the biggest criticisms you could say about that game is the character models. They're not lip synced all the time. They kind of have weird motions. And every single time that happened, I would notice it. But would I care? No, I wouldn't care at all. And going back to something like, and this is a game that just came out this year, Last of Us is better at that. The first Last of Us, the original one, as you could play it, they have better character animations. The models look a bit more consistent all the time with how they move their lips. That was how many years ago now? Comparative to now, it was, I'm bad at math. You get the idea. It happened a couple of years ago.
It's 2025 now, so it would have been about 12 years ago.
Yeah. So if they're able to do that then and make it look better than a game does this year that is irrelevant to that fact, like no one was bringing up this as a real criticism. That's why I put air quotations around it, because again, you visually notice that's going on, but do you really give a shit? There's a lot of games like, for example, the personas, the metaphors, they also have weird, and this is an anime game, so it's a bit different, but same kind of point. The animations and when characters do things through their models, like for example, Persona 5 Royal. Fuck it, who cares? I'll say that one. Do you care when an animation looks not super realistic? That doesn't make it seem like it was motion captured.
A little bit apples and oranges.
I get it is, but it's the point of that game's able to work, and no one still really cares, even though it's not this high fidelity game. You don't need that. And so that's, again, one of the reasons why these crunches always happen. Because, didn't Spider-Man also go through the same problem? Didn't they have a lot of crunching going on? kind of a game that has a similar kind of style to it?
Probably. I mean, yeah, Crunch.
I don't remember
is just
like a
a thing
specific story about that.
Yeah, Crunch is just a video game industry like thing. It's a cultural thing that happens in this industry, and it's really a shame because it leads to massive burnout and massive, just problems at home. People aren't around for birthdays or weddings or Christmas parties or anything like that. You're not seeing your kids grow up. You're not around to help take care of the household. And stuff like that. So like it's just very taxing and weighs heavy on the lives of your workers, and they are not benefiting one way or another from this crunch culture, other than a hard pat on the back and a good job, buddy. Like, so yeah, it's just it's frustrating to see that like one of the industry, quote unquote leaders, after if they meet their date of 2027, that's 7 years without a new game. And it's just kind of hard to justify these things. Like why, for what purpose are we making games this large, this big, and with this level of fidelity? Like, I don't understand it. And I come back to, I'm actually kind of impressed with what they've been doing with Final Fantasy VII Remake series, because I've been playing FF7 Remake a lot. I've been trying to get the platinum in that game right now. And the character models look phenomenal. The environments vary, sometimes they look great. Sometimes, we're taking a couple of shortcuts and, hey, don't look at this door. This door's a little blurry. It's okay. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is kind of that way too. You take a close examination at like rocks and things and dirt roads, and you're like, these look a little muddy. These look a little muddy. But like, do we need it to look fantastic? You're running past it a million miles a minute, and you're never gonna look that closely unless like it is your job to look that closely. And like, it's just not everything needs to look that way. Death Stranding 2, as incredible as it looks, there is a noticeable dip in visual fidelity past the intro. Not that like it's like a hard line, they like ease you into it, but they come out the gate with their big, like, I want to say it's almost pre-rendered like cutscenes that make it look like fucking amazing, and look how amazing this game is. And then you get into the meat of the game and it looks regular. Like, and I'm like, all right, so like y'all are kind of doing some visual trickery to make me think this game looks better than it does.
And I know Final Fantasy VII, the remakes, definitely had crunch go on, especially because it's made in Japan, which their work culture in there is even more insane than ours is, or more insane than the Western side of
my
the
point
game
was
industry is.
They're getting away with it and able to produce games at a decent pace because they're not being so hyper focused.
That was going to be my point. Of the time between the first remake and the second one is 4 years. The time in between, go back to this story, for where Intergalactic is going to come out and Uncharted, Last of Us Part 2. Like, what's the span of time in between those two games? You don't need to crunch this hard. You don't.
Now, granted, I would expect a sequel to take less time, like, because you're reusing assets and you're developing a new IP is harder than making a sequel. Like, anybody will tell you that. It takes more time to flush out the world and what is the visual design of the world? What does it look like? And you're answering a lot of questions throughout the entire course of development. So it just takes a little longer. But 7 years is a little ridiculous. Yeah. And listen, this is coming from someone who also understands that there was a Last of Us multiplayer game that the entire studio was brought together to work on, because it started as a small project and then grew into something larger, and then that got canceled. Like, so let's say 3 of those years got wasted, but like not all 3 of those years were having the whole studio focused on that title. Like, I believe Intergalactic has been being worked on much longer than its announcement, like years before. So you're still looking at 5-6 years of development, and for what? Just to like get my fucking back blown out on these like crazy overtime hours? Like, what is the point of it? And me as the player, I look at it and I go, I don't know, it looks good to me. Like, it doesn't need to look hyper realistic. Like, it's fine, And
how advanced was that Last of Us multiplayer game? Like, was it again their same philosophy of be super high fidelity, lots of minor little details?
Sure it was. I'm sure the bar was Last of Us 2.
Yeah.
So, Connor, we got to move on to our third topic of the day. Your first penny of the day. Go ahead and take it away, my friend.
Yes, this is from The Verge, from Jay Peters at The Verge. Sony's legal battle against Tencent's Horizon clone is already over. In July, Sony sued Tencent to prevent the release of Light of Motorum, a game Sony alleged was a quote slavish clone end quote of its popular Horizon series. But the legal battle is already over. The two companies have reached a quote confidential settlement end quote, and the case has been dismissed with prejudice, according to a court document filed on Wednesday. Light of Motoram is also no longer listed on Steam and the Epic Games Store, despite the game's website showing links to listings on both stories as of this writing. A user on the game's official subreddit also noticed the removal, pointing to a Steam DB link that says, quote, this app has been retired and is no longer available on the Steam store, end quote. Light of Motoram was announced last year, and the aesthetics of its reveal trailer showed a striking resemblance to Horizon the series, featuring lush landscapes, futuristic technology, and monstrous animal-like robots. In its lawsuit, Sony also alleged that Tencent used its, quote, ripoff, end quote, of Horizon protagonist Aloy as the centerpiece of its marketing and promotional strategy. Quote, Tencent's unlawful copying of the protected audio-visual elements of the Horizon games, as well as its deliberate adoption of a confusingly similar character mark, constitutes both copyright and trademark infringement that should be enjoined immediately to prevent irreparable harm to Sony irreparable harm to Sony Interactive Entertainment and the consuming public, Sony said at the time. SIE and Tencent are pleased to have reached a confidential resolution and will have no further public comment on this matter, Sean Durkin, head of communications for Tencent Americas, told The Verge. SIE and Tencent look forward to working together in the future. Sony didn't immediately reply to a request for comment. So I remember before this game came out, Tencent had approached Sony wanting to work on a game together, and Sony said no. And
they gave them a pitch for a game in the Horizon thing, and had I guess concept art or like early build, like an early build, like already working for them, and yeah, Sony said no, and
I don't know why
they just kept going
after
with it.
this.
I don't know.
Even now they're like, we hope to work with them in the future. I don't think you are, man.
No, you're not. You're done.
It might not be.
You just got to find a hell.
Yep. Yeah. Again, a better outcome than might have otherwise occurred if the game had released. But you think that still is going to lead to some kind of beneficial agreement between the two companies where they're going to work together? It's not going to happen, Tencent.
This game's dead in the water, and that studio is probably going to get closed down, which fucking sucks for those people. But like,
especially because they were probably just told by Tencent, "Hey, make this game that looks like this other game.
Make Horizon.
Make money."
You know, they said make a co-op Horizon game or an MMO Horizon game, and they went okay, and then like even the picture shown at the top of the article, Connor, like it's always like so shocking to me every time this story comes back around where I go, it couldn't have looked that much like Horizon. And then I look at an image and I go, oh no, that's Horizon. Like, wow, you guys were blatantly just stealing that IP. Like, wow,
that looks like a multiplayer mode.
Literally 100%. Like it doesn't look as pretty because it's not Gorilla and it's not the same engine, but like that looks like a mechanical beast from Horizon. Those people are dressed like the people in Horizon. The weapons look like Horizon weapons, and I'm like, well, there's no way. Like, were you just testing Sony just to see if they would? Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're going to. They're one of the biggest tech conglomerates in the world. They protect their IPs, and Horizon's not a small IP. Now, granted, there's a lot of cases of smaller games getting away with a lot more. There was that one anime-ish open world game that straight up like just stole animations and stuff from Spider-Man. Like, we looked at it and went, no, that's how Peter Parker moves in Spider-Man 2. Like, you just stole that. And so, there's examples of like really small games getting away with it, but it's because they're so small. Tencent, you're too big for shit like this.
Yeah, well, apparently not. Tencent is they're one of the biggest, so they're not going away. If this was a smaller studio, they would have been probably fucked, just completely.
Oh, but yeah.
Tencent.
I mean, this studio is probably dead. Like, it's just a matter of time. I mean, if I'm Tencent in this moment, like, I don't even make a comment. I don't say anything. I let it just die quietly on the vine, and I don't put out any more works or anything. I think them removing it off of Steam already shows that they're like, all right, yeah, we're not paying for this to be on a storefront. We're gonna keep the website alive for a couple more years, and then we're just gonna let it quietly die. Connor, moving on to our final topic of the day, your final penny. Go ahead, take it away.
This is from VGC, Andy Robinson at VGC. The next Zelda game could be partly inspired by a recent spin-off, hence series boss Aonuma. The Legend of Released for Switch 2 last month, Age of Imprisonment is the third full entry in the Hyrule Warriors series, which combines the settings of The Legend of Zelda with the gameplay of Koei Tecmo's Dynasty Warriors action games.
There's
Age
three
of
of these?
Imprisonment. Yeah, because there was. I'm sorry, actually, yeah. There's the Age of.
I only remember the first Hyrule Warriors.
Was
Did
one
they
of them
make
like Age
did
of
they make
Strife
another
or
one?
something like that? I think they did, they must. I mean, obviously they must have. You could look that up in the meantime.
I'm doing it.
Delete those other ones. Age of Imprisonment retells historical events from the Zelda timeline with fast-paced hack-and-slash combat and the ability to switch between multiple characters. In a new interview with Japanese site 4Gamer, Zelda boss Aonuma shared some hints on what players can expect from the next game in the series and suggested it might be inspired by elements of Imprisonment. Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment is the first Zelda title on Nintendo Switch 2. To be honest, we wanted to be the ones to release the first one ourselves, laughs, he said. Still, the inspiration we've gained from collaborating with Koei Tecmo like this may be reflected in the next Zelda we create. As you play Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, we hope you'll imagine those possibilities and look forward to our Zelda, end quote. 2026 will mark the 40th anniversary of the Zelda series. The last mainline Zelda entry, Tears of the Kingdom, was released in 2023, while the last 2D version came out just last year, so 2026 will likely be too soon for a new game in the traditional sense. However, Nintendo has several Zelda projects in the works outside of video games, including the live-action movie, due for release in 2027, and a new Lego set. Oh, VGC reports...
We talked about
VGC wrote... Oh, did we?
Yeah, didn't we?
Oh.
thought so.
I guess so, yeah, sure. Oh,
Or
the
maybe
live-action
we
movie?
just talked about it behind the scenes or something.
The Lego thing?
Yeah.
Oh,
Hey,
yeah,
I'll
I
be
think we're for it.
damned. This is the second Hyrule Warriors game to be based off of the Breath of the Wild series. There was Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. The new one is Age of Imprisonment. And then there was
Where's
the
the
first. The first one was Hyrule Warriors for Wii U, which is the one that I knew about.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
I don't know how Age of Calamity, which released in 2020, I don't know how that slipped under my radar.
Well, I mean, hey, listen. I like the Dynasty Warrior type games. They're fun combat. And that's always been the weakest part of Zelda games. And so when they say they're going to be inspired by it, I think that's what they're talking about. They want to have more energetic, fast-paced combat, which I understand is a pretty stark turnaround from the series because it's a bit more, I guess, grounded's not the best word, but no, yeah, grounded. Of course, it takes place in a fantasy world, so as grounded as you can be in that scenario, but you know, you're not doing big giant flips. You're not doing large attacks to take out like whole lines of enemies that are crowded around in big groups. It's more like small little fights that you get in with people. Sometimes they throw 3 at you, you know. Be careful. You might have to deal with some crazy stuff going on. Of course, that kind of goes away in they kind of I'm not remembering from old Legend of Zelda games hard enough. We need to educate ourselves on the Legend of Zelda games as we do in our game club. But point is, combat's never been the main draw of these games, and I think that's what they're going to really be focusing on. I think Zelda, other than that, will stay Zelda, and this is just one aspect that's going to change, because that's the most notable thing about the Dynasty Warrior type games, and by extension, the Hyrule Warriors type games. It's just, you know, a lot of stuff going on the screen at one time, and that's usually not what you get in a Zelda game.
I mean, I don't think we're getting a Hyrule Warriors level of combat in it, but if it means that we do get better combat, I'm all about it, because the combat in the Breath of the Wild games fucking is atrocious.
Atrocious who uses.
Connor, you sarcastically just said, "Oh, careful! They might throw 3 enemies at you at one time." You know, like, ooh.
Well, that's not the case for Breath of the
Ooh,
Wild.
I'm gonna swing twice and knock them all down, and then chase them down a hill to finish them off while they ragdoll. Ooh.
First of all, in that game, there's far more than 3 enemies that can be thrown your way. I'm starting to think more back to the old Legend of Zelda games, but even then, I'm not educated enough to say that confidently. I took it back, Tavin. So you're putting words in my mouth, kind of like what AI does.
It's not even about the number of enemies. It's just like the game feel and like what it feels like to swing a sword. And it to my memory of Twilight Princess, like, it's definitively gotten worse. Like, Breath of the Wild combat is atrocious.
Atrocious, just the weakest part.
It's ass, and it's the like one of the main parts of that game, especially since they backed off the actual fun parts of Zelda games, which is like the adventuring and puzzle solving, and it's just fucking, ooh, I put the square block in your square hole. Ooh. Breath of the Wild
hater Tavin Bothel.
Trash.
Yes, hey, you have said that. You've been consistent. You're just wrong.
At least I've been consistent, you know? someone on this podcast has to remain consistent, remain objective, you know? No, okay, but in all seriousness, seriousness.
In all seriousness.
I don't know why I'm tripping out on that. Anyways, yeah, the game. I think that's like the ideal way to go is to like let's put a spin on combat, let's put a spin on something else. Like I don't expect that. I do expect that you will get more open world more open world Zelda games. Probably a lot like Breath of the Wild. They need to reinvent the map. And I think if they are going to keep that same structure of like the exploring nature of it, I think it still makes sense to like still have the equivalency of shrines and little spots on the map that, or a bunch of spots on the map that make you go, ooh, what is this? And so that leads in your big, like 3 pillars of exploration, puzzle solving, and combat. That leaves you with just really combat to like change and buff up and make different. You know what I mean? So, but of course, like I also would never have expected the what do they call it? Not God Hand. What is the ability in Tears of the Kingdom called? The putting shit together. The putting shit together ability. I would not have expected that to have happened. So I'm always like interested to see what new creative thing that they're throwing into the next anything from Nintendo, right? Because that's what they're really good at, is giving you what you love and putting a creative twist on it. Usually, sometimes it's just like, all right, well, this is a gimmick that ruins the game. But
Fuse, Ultra Hand,
Ultra Hand, that's what it's called. So yeah, all of that stuff was I thought really, really, really cool and really creative. And so if we can, obviously not 1-to-1, but if we can find a cool and creative way to spice up that combat, make it more visually interesting at the very least, I'm all the way for it. Like something to just make that part of the game come alive a little bit better would be great. When did 2023 for Tears of the Kingdom? When would you expect a new one, Connor? 2017, 2023. That's what, 5 years? So
yep.
28. Do we think for the next main line, or do you think we can squeeze it out by 27?
Yeah, see, I'm thinking maybe 20. Nah, the way he's talking about this, it seems like it'd be more. No, I guess it really depends when he's hinting at this being inspired by Dynasty Warriors. Is that like on the when they're planning things out phase, or they've already started implementing it, and this is just a wink and nod to that? So I'm going to go ahead and say 2028, just because I feel like 2027 might be a bit too soon. But even then, I'm not too confident in that.
Wii U didn't get. I mean, they got Breath of the Wild, but like they didn't really get a mainline Zelda title, right? Because the Wii U, yeah, because
they got Skyward Sword. What did it?
That was the
Skyward
Wii
Sword
game. That was a Wii game.
Was it really?
Yeah.
It was on the Wii U. Yeah, but no, they came out a year later. So Wii U was that when the Hyrule Warrior game first came out?
Hyrule Warriors was for Wii U. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess I don't. Yeah, maybe wasn't that one of the big things when Breath of the Wild came out? It was the first time we had seen a mainline Zelda in a while, and that was part of why people were so just waiting.
But I think they spent a lot of that time trying new things and creating and figuring out how to make the game work, right? So like it makes sense that one took a little bit longer. But like I would be kind of surprised. 2028 seems like 3 years in. Well, I guess it's only 3 years into the Switch 2 life cycle. So maybe not that bad, but I mean, if I were Nintendo, I'd be like, hey, I want our main lines on here as quick as possible.
Yeah.
I mean, so we have like, I mean, we have the Donkey Kong and the Mario Kart. Okay, cool. A 3D Mario has to be coming at some point. An Animal Crossing has to be coming at some point, and a Zelda has to be coming at some point. So like, if I were Nintendo, I'd be like, hey, we want this as soon as possible. But it also seems like they are more than willing to just like wait and put it out when it's ready, which is the ideal way to do things.
2028 is not that long away, all things considered.
You know what, Connor? I'm gonna place my bet. I think it's 27. I think we're looking at a late 27 for the next mainline Zelda game.
I bet that's when a Mario game comes out, not a Zelda game.
Maybe. I wouldn't mind that either, though. That all sounds great to me. Ladies and gentlemen, you let me know what sounds great to you down in the comments below. Let us know all of your feelings about the AI fiasco that happened this week, and of course, Naughty Dog's crunch culture coming back. Remember, you can get this show every Tuesday, 8 a.m. Central Time, youtube.com/@TwoPennyGames, or mainstream podcast services of your choice. Make sure you like, subscribe, and drop a comment so that you can get your own 2 pennies read on next week's episode. And until next time, have a great time. And Connor, say goodbye to the people.
Bye. Have a nice Christmas.